Today we are going to have an introduction to our Unit 5 on proportions. We are going to review a skill that we will use throughout this unit. Our basic skill that we are reviewing is converting between fractions, decimals, and percents. The state standard for this skill reads that I can write any rational number as a ratio between two integers, fraction, a terminating or repeating decimal. How do you change a fraction is how we're going to start. In order to change it into a decimal, you are going to take the numerator and divide it by the denominator. To change that fraction into a percent, you're going to turn it into a decimal and then multiply by 100. So let's do a couple of examples. We're going to take the fraction 9/20. We're going to do basically 9 divided by 20 on our calculators, and our decimal is going to come up as 45 hundredths. Then to change it into a percent, we're going to take that 45 hundredths and we're going to multiply it by 100 and we get 45%. So we have our fraction, our decimal, and our percent. Let's do it again with the fraction 18/25. Again, on our calculator, we're going to do 18 divided by 25, and we get 72 hundredths. There's our decimal. We take that, multiply it by 100, and we get 72%. There's our percent. Sometimes we have more numbers than we think we need. So let's do the third one here. We'll do 5 divided by 16, and on our calculator we get 0.3125, and that is the correct decimal representation. As a percent, we still multiply it by 100, only now we're going to have a decimal in our percent, which is just fine, so we get 31 and 25 hundredths percent, and there's our answer. Same steps, just a little bit longer. We don't always, however, start with fractions. Sometimes we're going to start with a decimal. So to take a decimal and change it into a fraction, we're going to put the number after the decimal point up in the numerator, and we're going to put the place value of that entire number, the last place value, in the denominator. And then we're going to simplify if we can. In order to change it to a percent, we just take the decimal and multiply it by 100. Let's do some examples. 675 thousandths. Let's do the easy one first. We'll change it into a percent. We'll multiply it by 100. We get 67.5%. To change it into a fraction, we're going to take the number after the decimal, 675, and we're going to put it over the place value. We have the tenths, hundredths, thousandths, and that's the number we're going to put in our denominator. Simplify it. It can simplify down to 27/40, and that is the fraction that we will be looking for. Let's try the next one, 25 thousandths. We're going to multiply it by 100 first to get our percent, which gives us 2.5%. We would put our number, which we'll use just 25, over tenths, hundredths, thousandths. We're going to simplify it down to 1/40, and there's our fraction. Sometimes they're easier. 6/10 times 100 gives us 60%. Put 6 over, and here we just have tenths. Simplify that to 3/5. 8 hundredths times 100 to change it into a percent gives us 8%. To put it into a fraction, we're going to do 8 over 100 because we have tenths and 100ths. Simplify that down to 2/25. So we changed our decimals into percents and then into fractions. One last group. we have, if we're given a percent, in order to change it into a percent, change the percent into a fraction, we put that percent over 100. Percent basically means out of 100. And then, of course, we simplify. To turn it into a decimal, we take that percent and we divide by 100. Let's do a few examples here. 34%. We're going to do 34 divided by 100. We get 34 hundredths. And again, we take 34 and we put it over 100 and we simplify that down to 17 over 50. 18%. 18 divided by 100 takes us to 18 hundredths. You can basically take, here's our decimal point here, and go backwards 2 places. Also works very easy. Put 18 over 100, simplify it down to 9 fiftieths. 110%. Take our decimal point, move it over 2, do 110 divided by 100, we get 1 1/10. And again, we put 110 over 100. We can simplify that down to 11 tenths. So we have basically, or if you want to put it into a mixed number, you'd have 1 1/10. 8 1/10%. We can move it over twice, multiply by 100, whichever way you want to do, and we're going to get 0.081. And we put that into a fraction, 81 over tenths, hundredths, 1,000ths. And we can't simplify that one down, so we would just leave that alone. 92.5%. I'm going to change this into a decimal so I can see it better. 92.5 is 92.5. Move the decimal point back 2, or take 92.5, whoops, extra decimal, sorry, times 100, and we're going to get 0.925. So then we put 925 over tenths, hundredths, thousandths, and we can simplify that down to 37 fortieths. Go back and review any part that you think you may need to. Then I want you to try these on your own. Pause the recording and fill in the blanks. Some you're given a fraction, some you're giving a decimal, some you're getting a percent, and you fill in the blanks. Unpause it when you are finished and we'll go over the answers. Okay, let's go over the answers for our table here. We'll start with 4 tenths. As a decimal, it would be 4 tenths. As a percent, it would be 40%. Going to 45 hundredths. As a fraction, it would be 45 hundredths simplified down to 9 twentieths. We already have the decimal, so as a percent, it would be 45%. The third one, we have 15%. As a fraction, be 15 over 100, simplified down to 3 twentieths. And as a decimal, it'd be 0.15. 52 fiftieths. Change that into a percent, or excuse me, a decimal. We would have 1.04. And as a percent, it would be 104%. 0.2334. Change that into a fraction. We'd put 0.2334 over tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10,000ths. And then we can simplify that, and that I'll put this on this side since there's not enough room. 1,167 over 5,000 is what it would simplify to. As a percent, move it over two places or multiply by 100, we get 23.34%. Last one, we're going to take 35.2%. We're going to put it into the fraction, and it basically would be 352 over 1,000. Simplifies down to 44 over 125. As a decimal, we move it back to or divide by 100 and we get 0.352. Go back and repeat any part of the video that you would like, and then you can take the quiz after this video on Schoology.